All right, Ben, the Iran-Israel conflict has shaken global markets. What's been the impact on Bitcoin?
What a week or a couple of weeks it's been, really. The US strikes and them getting involved has really seen a dip in the S&P and quite a sizable dip. We've also seen the same with Bitcoin, but it seems like Bitcoin is holding up better than the S&P. And I think that's really this underlying narrative that there's strong buy pressure, more so than it's a wartime asset. It's certainly got potential for that, but the fact that this underlying narrative of continuous buying from corporate treasuries and institutions into spot Bitcoin ETFs is really promising.
And is that also playing out in institutional behaviour?
Yeah, definitely. We're still seeing growth in these Bitcoin ETFs, and like I said, that corporate treasury is still growing as well. I think ETFs now hold over 1 million Bitcoin globally, so they're really positioning themselves to make sure that it's included in their portfolios.
All right, let's shift to the technical side of things. So we did see a massive drop in the Bitcoin hash rate. Can you actually explain a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah, this is really interesting. It's probably one of the largest, if not the largest ever, drops in the Bitcoin hash rate. It's typically quite volatile as old machines fall offline, but this one is really unique. Dropped by nearly 30% over the course of that war period from around the 13th of June. And then when the US started doing their bombing, it dropped even further. It has rebounded though, which is really promising. So what we're seeing, I think, is not so much that the sites, and this is what a lot of people are speculating, the sites that were bombed contain Bitcoin miners. I think what we're seeing is a disruption in the energy and grid in Iran that has then impacted the ability to have machines running all the time. And so I think the bombings sort of were slowly breaking the energy infrastructure there. What a lot of people don't realise is that over the last few years we've seen a lot of mining equipment move out of China as it's been banned domestically, and they've set up closer to ultra cheap energy sources, and one of those being Iran. So I think we've got a massive amount of miners being concentrated firstly in Iran, and then we've seen a disruption in the power. What's really interesting is the ability for it to rebound so quickly, which is positive and supports that sort of global, unique, distributed sort of monetary infrastructure.
And does this kind of disruption impact Bitcoin's integrity, do you think?
So the hash rate is all around security, and the harder it is, the more secure the network. And what happens is, even though when the hash rate drops down, internally the metrics and the algorithms adjust to ensure that Bitcoin keeps producing. And so what we're seeing is this self-sovereign asset, monetary infrastructure that's not committed to one jurisdiction still keeps ticking over and building, and it's very robust in these sorts of circumstances.
All right, so is this good or bad for the narrative, do you think?
Look, ironically, I think overall the narrative, whilst it's still evolving, but it's certainly a good thing for the narrative. You can see how robust it is during these difficult times. You can see how it's not centric on one jurisdiction, although one jurisdiction may have an impact. And I think the other thing is you're seeing is that the conviction from institutions is so strong, it's actually surpassing that of a wartime narrative. So I think those elements alone show that the conviction around Bitcoin and its future is very strong.
And do you have any final thoughts for investors that are currently sitting on the sidelines?
Yeah, I think you've got to come back to the resilience. Resilience through these times. These are great examples where Bitcoin is pushed and pressured, and it's stood up really well. And I think institutions are really starting to change that narrative, and instead of thinking about why should Bitcoin be included, they're now thinking about why not include it. And this, certainly the last fortnight, has really shown a good use case as to why it should be in portfolios and diversifying them.